Hello and welcome to one and all to another episode, number 31, that is, of the Third Men Cricket Podcast. Firstly, we are back after a bit of a long hiatus of a couple of months. We did our last episode back in January, and just to let our viewers and listeners know, the reason why we were away. My good friend Ravi was away in India to send something very important in his life, getting into a nuptial knot. With his loved one back home. And myself, I got blessed with a little one over here in Canada and completed our little family on family day here. So that was the reason both of us had those important life events going on in our respective lives. And that's the reason we took a small break. But here we are back with episode number 31, as I mentioned, as we look forward to another engrossing season of, yes, you guessed it right, the Indian Premier League, which is going to be in its, I guess, 15th season now, and still going strong. And hopefully, we'll keep on going strong in the coming years as well. And we get to view great quality cricket. And as we look forward to the latest version of the IPL, here we are to do the preview of all the 10 teams. Yes, it's going to be a 10-team tournament from 2022 onwards. Two new teams added in, the Lucknow Super Giants and the Gujarat Titans. So what me and Ravi thought was we split up the preview of these two of the teams into two episodes, and today we'll be discussing on the five teams which make up the North Zone and the East Zone as far as the location of these teams are concerned. And tomorrow, hopefully, we should cover the Western and the Southern teams to round it up before looking ahead to a great tournament ahead. With that, I will not waste any more time and welcome my uh, partner in crime here at the podcast, Ravi. Hopefully, everything is settled down. Congratulations to you and your family, and welcome back to the Third Man Cricket Podcast.
Hello, Upon Bhaiya. Of course, thanks a lot for your wishes, and of course, congratulations to you and your family too. It's been like you rightly told, it's been a couple of months away. But having said that, there's a lot of cricket action happening in between, be it the IPL auction or the exciting tour of Australia to Pakistan, and not very exciting Indian domestic circuit. Having said that, while we did spend time following cricket, of course, we never got a chance to talk about it, but it feels nice to get back to this with IPL, and of course in the days to come we're going to cover a lot more cricket that's been happening over the last 2 months.
Great. That's nice to hear, Ravi. So let us get the ball rolling, and why not start with the Punjab Kings team? And I would like to get your views on how this team shapes up as per you. They've got a brand new captain in Mayank Agarwal, so take it away and please feel free to let the viewers know your thoughts on the Punjab Kings.
Oh yes, so I personally think I'm not very sure of the playing 11 and the squad how it looks, but it's very nice of Punjab to actually look at Mayank as a potential leader. He's been sticking around for long. Of course, they did by few captaincy material folks in say Dhawan, but Bairstow is also known for his leadership qualities in a way or two. But they did still stuck to Mayank, and but what stands out for Punjab Kings is their top order with Mayank, Dhawan, and Bairstow. Liam Livingstone, who's as a formidable T20 batsman, along with Rishi Dhawan in the middle order. I think it would be very nice to see Rishi Dhawan as a finisher because we know how amazing of an all-rounder he is, at least in the current form he was. He's done so well in the Vijay Hazare Trophy, wherein he's become I think the first player to actually I think finish in the top five run getters and also be amongst the top five wicket takers in the same season. So it speaks volumes, and I think Rishi Dhawan I was expected to actually get a lot of bucks, and of course Punjab went for him and then bought the I'll say more or less a veteran because he's been here for a long time. I was a bit I won't say concerned, but I didn't necessarily feel that their bowling is at probably the best of the uh, other teams. They have Kagiso Rabada and Rahul Chahar, but it's still not one of the most strongest bowling lineups. So they'll actually rely a lot on Rabada and Rahul Chahar along with Arshdeep Singh and Sandeep Sharma. Would be nice to see Ishan Porel get some amount of more game time. He didn't. He is not necessarily a starter, a certain starter, but of course we all know what he's capable of. We've seen him what he can do. I remember that game against Pakistan, I think in New Zealand, as part of the Under 19 World Cup. So it would be really interesting to see how much game time Ishan Porel would get. So um, of course, I think the batting is pretty good, but heavily reliant on the top four. And similarly, bowling is also reliant on a couple of key players, and it's very important for them to strike. But I vividly remember us discussing about venues when we were doing a preview around the same time last year when we were talking about how teams would play X number of games at each venue, be it in Chennai, Bangalore, and then subsequently at Bombay, and then at Ahmedabad and whatnot. But here we see that everything is going to be held in Bombay, in Mumbai, and then the tracks more or less behave the same. So there'll be, I personally think that there will be less or little advantage to anyone in that matter. Of course, Mumbai Indians would definitely have an advantage, which we would probably speak a lot maybe in our next episode. So having said that, I don't specifically think there's something called home or away advantage, or it's pretty much the same for everyone, and it's important for them to kind of get acclimatized to the conditions out there. So that's one, I'll say, a caveat probably that would apply to all the teams, and those are my few cents on Punjab Kings. What do you think, Bhaiya? Over to you.
Yeah, pretty much agreed with your views on that, Ravi. I think they seem a bit top heavy with Mayank Shikhar and Johnny Bairstow. I think they would like Johnny Bairstow to take the wicket-keeping duties to enable them to play an extra player. And I think they are banking big time on Liam Livingston and Shah Rukh Khan there in the middle order for them. And Rishi Dhawan, who's got a second lease of life as um, Himachal captain and has won the Vijay Hazare Trophy, leading them, as you mentioned. So these three players in the middle order, and their bowling looks a bit thin, although they are well served by Harpreet Brar in the spinning department, along with um, Rahul Chahar, like you mentioned. But I'm struggling to find first choice for overseas players. Johnny Bairstow, Liam Livingston, and Kagiso Rabada, as you mentioned, would play. And who would they play as the fourth foreigner if they want to go down the route of selecting somebody like Odion Smith, who will bowl a couple of overs, not necessarily the entire quota, and then be down the order, and they would go for a bit of lusty hitting from him. And plus, their Indian fast bowling talent is a bit thin on pace. Sandeep Sharma and Arshdeep Singh are both military medium at pace. Wouldn't trouble the batsmen much with their pace, but we saw Arshdeep doing really well with his bag of tricks in the last couple of seasons. So they will be tilting towards him performing well. And like you mentioned, Ishan Porel did not get much game time, but he's a bowler who deserves much more game time. And I'm sure that the think tank of Kumble and Mayank would be um, hoping for more game time. And one last bit before we round it off, the young under 19 sensation Raj Angad Bawa. He's got good credentials with both bat and ball, and they will, I'm sure, look at him at some point of time as well. And he could be that X factor. Not many international players would have seen him, or the domestic players would have played against him, so he can be that surprise factor. They've got two or three good all-rounders, but again, they've got their big guns at the top of the order to fire consistently to, go into the playoffs and have any kind of chance going forward. So that was with respect to the Punjab team, and now we'll quickly move on to the next team, which is the brand new team of Lucknow Super Giants. And in fact, they were the first team in the mega auction to um, get their players done and dusted, empty their purse and move out of the room as soon as possible. Messrs. Goenka, Andy Flower, and Gautam Gambhir have put up a very good score as far as I'm concerned, on paper at least.
Hmm.
And many people are of the opinion that they've got um, great all-rounders, which form the major crux of their team. In the likes of Jason Holder, um, Quinton de Kock is again classified as an all-rounder, giving them that option. Deepak Huda, Kunal Pandya, Marcus Stoinis. So all utility players that they have selected, who can bat at um, any when batting any situation at any number in the batting order. Um, and if you look at their firepower, as far as batting is concerned, they've got Ewan Lewis, Kyle Mayers in the ranks, of course, led by the able KL Rahul, who will be leading the side. So they've got their batting covered pretty much, when we speak of um, these players, and most of the players have more than one skill added to their repertoire, and that gives the captain great amount of flexibility to choose the players as per the situation. Um, so I think that coupled with good amount of Indian spinning talent also, if you see pure spinners in there, Karan Sharma is there, and Krishna Gautam is also there, along with Ravi Bishnoi, one of the players that they bought pre-auction, is somebody they're looking at, and then they have experience of Shahbaz Nadeem to fall on as well, and one of the hot buys of the auction in Avesh Khan. So I think they're looking really solid. They seem to have covered every base and have credible backups as well. It is just now that the team that they put out on the park performs to its caliber out on the field, and I think this can potentially be one of the teams that qualifies for the playoffs. Don't want to put the markers on them, but it's a well thought out squad with many multi utility players in there, and that's what we want in T20 cricket. People who can bowl a couple of overs here and there, and just can come and bat for 8 to 10 balls and change the complexion of the game. So I think it's a good headache to have for the captain KL Rahul. It'll be interesting to see how he copes up post his unsuccessful tenure, I would say, at Punjab. If he, is ready to turn a new leaf and get this side going, which has got all the tools as far as I'm concerned. It's just now how you manage them and get them to perform on the field uh, is what is going to decide their fate in the season. Uh, your thoughts on the Lucknow Super Giants squad, Ravi?
Indeed, very strong. I think perhaps this one of the most strongest teams for sure. Someone who's done really well. I mean, at the table bidding and whatnot. So, having said that, to additionally to the pointers that you just highlighted, what I personally felt is they still do not necessarily have a Fury fast bowler is what I felt. Probably a Mark Wood was one who could also bat a bit, but now that Mark Wood is out of the tournament, they've roped in someone like a Blessing Mazurabani. So it's a, it's a. I don't think this is something that they would have probably expected. But having said that, uh, uh, maybe went for some extra bucks or probably could have been more conservative is what we can personally in hindsight can talk about it. Having said that, it would be interesting to see because be it Avesh or be it Huda, be it Holder. I mean, they're not like those strike ballers who will be like someone like a Rabada or someone who's extremely fiery, and then you kind of hesitate how to play and whatnot. So. Uh, it will be interesting to see how they'll actually approach that. But yeah, heavy batting lineup. I think one of the best batting lineup, top 4 or 5, and Stoin is in the form that he's in, along with a very beautiful spin combination of, say, beat Krunal Pandya and also Ravi Bishnoi. I think uh, one of the strongest teams for sure. But I felt probably their bowling lineup could have been even better. Maybe I wouldn't have said that if Mark Wood was completely available, given his pace and how he's bowled in the Tour of India back in 2021. So that's my take on Lucknow. Uh, Next, I think I'll quickly move to a bit more west to the capital, Delhi. Uh, Probably after Hyderabad, I think Delhi has always been one team that I keep looking at in terms of how they're doing. Amazing on the auction table. Let's face it, like they did get a lot of accolades and probably appreciations for what they've done because yeah, the GMR's son, I'm not sure of what his name is, but he's there were a lot of memes that were floating in the internet wherein he
Yeah,
often did.
Kiran Kumar Grandi is his name.
Oh yes, Kiran Grandi. So yeah, he's received a lot of flack in a very funny, humorous way for actually hiking up prices of a lot of players, and then him running away with some steals as well. So having said that, to come up to Delhi Capitals, I think I'll spend some time on it because it's interesting how they actually approach this. A very organized team who's been doing quite well in the last few seasons, but not necessarily hitting the silverware. So it was a very gutsy move to not go with Shreyas, but truly believe in Pant, because Shreyas is supposed to be or probably understood to be a better captain. Having said that, I wasn't very, I'll say, excited with the way Pant captained the last season. Um, there were a few calls that were, quite blunders, I'll say. But having said that, they were blessed with a very nice playing 11, which pretty much covered for all these faults as well. Having said that, I think them getting Warner and Mitch Marsh is a big hit, both fresh from the world who were the world champions, and I think their uh, the Indian strength that they have always has been amazing. Be it last time around with Dhawan, Iyer, Shaw, and whatnot. But this time they also got in Shardul Thakur, Khalil, Kuldeep Yadav, Akshar Patel, Sakaria, and also Kamlesh Nagarkoti. Would be really nice. And the pace attack is something that we need to talk about. Lungi Engidi, Khalil, Shardul Thakur, Nagarkoti, Sakaria, and Mitch Marsh. Uh, all these six available options, but having said that, who would they play would be quite interesting to see. Um, Coming to spin, it's certain that Kuldeep and Akshar Patel may be those two options. But having said that, Praveen Dubey is someone who can ball a leg break, and then also a 19-year-old Vicky Ostwal. He's known for his left arm orthodox again, and who can bat too. And Ripple Patel is another player who one needs to look out for, who can bat and also ball fast medium. He's touted to be uh, I don't want to say next Hardik Pandya, but having said that, he's known to be a good batsman and also who can bowl some amount of fast medium as well. Uh, I wanted KS Bharat to actually go to a franchise wherein he'll be the first choice wicket keeper. But having said that, I think he'll still be on the bench considering the Indian lineup that Delhi Capitals has. Not very keen for KS Bharat despite his credentials, because the playing 11 I think is I think personally is full, and until unless you don't see uh, someone miserably failing, I don't think there will be a lot of slot for them. Mainly because if there's Warner who's not firing or Mitch Marsh who's not firing, they have enough bowling out there to kind of cover Mitch Marsh with someone like a Roman Powell. um, but I think it's a very complete squad, and probably I'll maybe go ahead and mention this. I think this is one of the more. I personally think it's probably in the top two squads of this year's IPL, and I think the owners, the franchise, and the owners after Jindal has stepped in. I think there's a lot of method to the complete madness that Delhi Capitals was. It's not just rebranding in terms of its brand per se, but also in the way they're going to approach the game. So, really excited for what Delhi Capitals are going to go do, and really looking forward to Pant as a captain, because you know how much of a Pant fan I am. So, over to you, Bhaiya. What do you think?
Yeah, I totally agree with that, Ravi. They have put out again a very strong squad, and like they did in the previous seasons, they have got the best of the Indian talent, and that is what has kept the Delhi Capitals going. Although the only thing that has been elusive as far as they are concerned is the trophy, but they have been strong contenders in the last 3 years, each and every season, and have been constantly knocking on that door to silverware. The only concern I have with this squad is how they manage the first 4 or 5 matches of the season, which are going to be very crucial in the sense that David Warner, Mitchell Marsh, Lungi Ngidi, and Anvik Nokia, the Aussies and the South Africans, are not going to be available for the first 3 or 4 matches. And these are some of their core overseas players as well. So they'll be banking a lot on the Indian talent, the likes of the captain Pant and Prithvi Shaw, not to forget the young and brilliant Yash Dhul as well, whom they have in their ranks, local Delhi boy. Um, and then, the likes of Roman Powell are also in the squad. And this might actually be a chance for the French players who might want to showcase their talent and play in these first 4 or 5 matches and make it hard for the senior pros to come into the playing 11. So it's a kind of an opportunity for them as well. And how does Rishabh Pant go as the captain also will be very interesting to see after the franchise took a big call and did not hand over the back to Shreyas, hand over the captaincy back to Shreyas once he was back from injury last season. Agreed with you on Srikar Bharat. I think he has the potential to play as a pure batsman as well, but it remains to be seen whether he will be given that chance. And their Indian bowling is very, very strong. Shardul Thakur. Hopefully, Kamlesh Nagarkoti gets in much more games. They've got the Fez, Mustafizur Rahman as well. It will be interesting to see if he can, get in at some point of time. They've got a series of left-armers in Mustafizur, Khalil, and Chetan Sakaria. Um, a bit thin on the spinning side. Remains to be seen how Kuldeep Yadav turns up on that opportunity for him to put forward his claim to be part of that T20 World Cup squad later in the year. But yes, if they get over the first 4 or 5 matches and win 70 to 80% of that, I think their team is going to get even more stronger after that. And so, as you mentioned, I can't see them not playing, not making the playoffs unless and until they have really lost it and played badly as a team. And they've got somebody like Ricky Ponting at the helm of affairs as well, who's going to keep them on their toes and focused with single-minded agenda of winning the championship this time. So all in all, a fantastic squad again by Delhi. And we'll move on now to the team from the East, the only franchise representing the eastern part of India and the runners-up from the previous season, Kolkata Knight Riders, who seem to have a very enterprising squad as well, led by their brand new captain Shreyas Iyer. Uh, there was talk, I know, before the mega auction that he might be the most costliest player, and he also wanted to go into a franchise which would, select him and play him as a captain. And to be fair to him, he did a fantastic job with Delhi Capitals. So had other ideas, so they picked him first up, in that auction and tried to build a team around him. And as far as batting is concerned, he's got pretty stable Indian batting talent in there. They have invested in senior pro Ajinkya Rahane, who will want to prove a point or two, along with Nitish Rana. They have backed him again and reinvested in Nitish Rana, who has been absolutely fine. Rinku Singh, I am hoping that he gets more game time this season because I have seen some of his innings in domestic cricket and he
Hmm.
is a serious player. I think he should be getting more chances in there.
Hmm.
Um, Aaron Finch is in there, who I don't know which number team is this for him in the IPL because he seems to have played for all the franchises, barring one or two, and there was a lot of memes going on social media once he was replaced, in the KKR squad. Then they've got Venki Iyer, who would want to build up on his season last year, which catapulted him into the national team as well, and he would want to put his take forward as well for the T20 World Cup. And then, of course, you've got Dre Russ in there, who has not been at his best in the IPL in the last couple of years, but it was a major surprise for me when both him and Sunil Narayan were retained by KKR. I personally feel that both of them are past their prime um, at this point of time. They got in the Afghan veteran Mohammad Nabi as well. I'm really excited by the wicket-keeping options. They have Sam Billings and Selvin Jackson in there who can wicket keep as well. And they're exciting players. Billings from England has not been a regular in the IPL or in the England squad, so he'll have a point to prove as well. As far as their pace bowling stocks are concerned, they will be ably led by Pat Cummins, who was again bought by them at virtually half the price, um, along with Tim Saudi. And it's the Indian pace battery that I'm a bit concerned about because they seem to have not many exciting options in there. They have Umesh Yadav in there and nobody else of note. I don't know too much about uh, Rasik Salam. And of course, they have their other retained player in Varun Chakravarti, uh, you know, who is a mystery spinner and who should be the frontline spinner for them, along with somebody like Anupul Roy, who also did not get more time in the Mumbai Indians team. All in all, I feel that they are okay as far as their batting is concerned, but their bowling and their all-round capabilities are pretty limited, I would say. And I'll be honest in saying that I'll be surprised if they make it past the league stage and go into the playoffs this year. Your thoughts on the Knight Riders team, Will?
With batting and captaincy, I think I largely agree. But yeah, right, like you rightly pointed out, the bowling, especially the Indian battery, is something that probably will be led by Umesh Yadav. Having said that, Rasik Salam is a great talent from Jammu Kashmir. I think he was picked by Mumbai Indians the last season and has played maybe a couple of games, but hasn't gotten to do much. A huge talent, but it would be interesting to see if we'll get the amount of game time that we see. And Shiva Mavi is one player probably we've been listening a lot about him, but hasn't necessarily gotten the game time. So uh, all in all, right, I personally feel KKR has again stocked up themselves with a lot of Indian, players who are known to be with a lot of potential. Um, so be it Nitish Rana or Rinku Singh, like you rightly pointed out, Sheldon Jackson. I've been hearing about his glory from Donkey Stage when he used to probably won the uh, Ranji for Gujarat or Baroda, if I'm not wrong. So, and Anukul Roy being a spin option, is a very good all-rounder option. Mainly I also say that because Varun Chakravarti is not necessarily a mystery spinner anymore, and there's enough of. I mean, I really hope he'll do well. But having said that, I think is a bit overrated, and probably the mystery part will not necessarily be mystery anymore. So, would be kind of interesting to see on that front. A couple of players that I want them to kind of do really well this time around are Shiva Mavi and Venki Iyer. It's Venki Iyer with his batting and with his technique, we've seen what he could do in the recent T20s as well. If he necessarily needs to be the next Hardik Pandya or ex Hardik Pandya, who was actually quite glorious in the past, or and not necessarily end up like a Shivam Dubey. It's important for him to be even more consistent and do well at this level. And with KKR, I think he'll be able to get at least 2 to 3 overs probably. And of course, like you said, the pace battery is led by Pat Cummins, but it would be very tough for them to probably manage 20 overs till Pat Cummins will be back into the squad, because he's necessarily the backbone or the spine of this team with this bowling attack. Andy Russell, Narayan, okay, I won't say they're past their prime, but having said that, not reliant bowling options anymore. That's my 2 cents on Kolkata. And lastly, quickly moving to, I think, Rajasthan Royals, all the way from east to the west. Oh, well, this team often, I always feel, looking them at on paper, they seem amazingly very good, but at they lose too many games in close margins, and then they end up choking here and there, and then the surprise and play spoils for towards the end, and there's too much happening with Rajasthan Royals. And I think this year is not any different. Good buys with David Padikkal, Shimron Atmayer, Rassi Van Dusen as well, and I think that the bowling is much better with someone like a Bolt and Yuzi both in the team. It would be interesting to see Ashwin and Yuzi partner. Would be, I think, probably the two best spinners of India. One best off spinner and one best leg spinner currently are in the team, and it would be very nice to see how they'll partner and then do or play under, say, Sanju Samson. And a very good couple of all-rounders in the form of Neesham and Daryl Mitchell. But who would they actually play for is a question that we should be looking for. Because, at least when it comes to the foreign players, I think what I personally think is they should be playing Butler, Shimron Hetmeyer, Rassi Van Dusen, because he's in some terrific form. And then yesterday also he did really well against Bangladesh. And then, of course, Trent Bolt, who's a certain. Uh, Karun Nair and I think Yashasvi Jaiswal. I'm not sure if they'll be able to be slotted in. But there's one trivia actually. Rajasthan Royals has the best Malayalam or Mallu backing. They because of Sanju Samson to start with. There are a lot of fan clubs in Kerala which are dedicated to Rajasthan Royals, and there are screenings that happen out there. And I've been told by many of my friends. Same goes with Dubai. The games they played in Dubai, where there's a lot of Mallu crowd who used to go. And this time around, they have that Padikkal, Karun Nair, and everyone adding up to that. So I've been seeing some posts on Twitter wherein they're like, okay, we're going to back Rajasthan once again. Jokes aside, I've always followed one player, Obed McCoy. I really liked him ball for, I think, St. Lucia primarily, but I've seen him play in for Multan Sultans under Rizwan in the PSL, who has been quite decent, I'd say. But will he get game time is one question that should be looked at. But it seemed like a buy wherein okay, you want someone who needs to be bowling fast and is a left arm seamer in case something happens to someone like a Trent Boult, and it seemed such a buy. And with two other seamers in Prasidh and Saini, Navdeep Saini, I think overall there is decent balance, but is it enough to get into the top four? Because you know uh, tomorrow I think we would be talking about the five teams from the south and the west who happen to be firepowers, and Rajasthan still seems to be okay, probably not in the top four out there. And interestingly, I think all the five teams that we discussed today have Indian captains, and I think it's good to note that probably we'll have some amount of foreign captaincy tomorrow when we discuss the Sunrisers. So, nonetheless, interesting team. Josh Butler being the spine, uh, and of course, someone like Rian Parag, who's been there always, but not necessarily uh, expected, or not is not necessarily uh, doing as well as is expected, because I have a lot of hopes on him, because I want one player from Northeast India to represent India soon, and I thought Rian Parag will be that guy. But um, trivia, he happens to be an avid gamer. Apparently he doesn't practice enough, and there's a lot of gossip around that, but I don't want to buy much into it, and I hope Rian Parag does well too. I'll be looking closely on this guy, and I hope he does well. So that's my 2 cents on Rajasthan. What do you think, Baya?
Yeah, I think they have put up a good squad on paper at least, and this was the first time I saw Rajasthan Royals go very aggressively at the auction table, led by Kumar Sankar and team. And normally they have had a history of being very frugal with their buys and trying to make most of the limited talent that they have. They have been threatening for quite a number of seasons now to break the door open, especially with their overseas English talent combined with the Indian talent, but all that has come to naught. And they have assembled a good squad, like you mentioned, and it just remains to see whether they translate that into performance after that first season. They would want to pay a fitting tribute to the legendary Shane Warne in a nice way by performing very well in this upcoming IPL season. I think that would be a great tribute to the great man who sadly left us all of a sudden. But they have invested a lot in Sanju Samson, and I think it's high time for him to repay back now in capacity of a captain and as a player, more so as a player, because I have a feeling that if he does not, play to his potential this season, then that might be it as far as his Indian dreams are concerned. He needs to be consistent and not just put in flashes of brilliance. I think they have retained Yashasvi Jaiswal with the thought of him being given a chance at the top of the order. So it'll be really interesting if they want to offer Parikal, Butler, and Yashasvi Jaiswal as the top three in there. and then have Sandy Sampson added to that mix as well. And then in the middle order, on lower middle order, they have got great options in Rassi Van der Dusen, like you mentioned, who is in the form of his life, and they've got Jimmy Neesham and Darryl Mitchell. Either of them could play. And they've got great coverage in the spinning department, like you mentioned, Messrs. Ashwin and Chahal are going to be tough, combination. So that will allow them to play overseas fast bowlers as well in the form of Trent Bolt, ably supported by Prasidh Krishna, another upcoming bowler. And then they've got Nathan Coulter-Nile as well, who is a very good buy as far as I'm concerned, and can be that backup overseas seamer in case he's needed. And they are very well covered in the spin department as well in case Ashwin or Chahal are injured or out of form. They have KC Karyappa over there. The other Kuldeep Yadav is in the squad as well. Some people have mentioned very highly of him as well. So yeah, I don't see Shimmer Hetmeyer being a first choice overseas player, unfortunately, but it's a good backup to have as well. Gives that solid hitting option uh, for them. So overall, again, they have a squad which has got the potential, but whether they're able to translate that into performance on the field and how well they are led by Sandy Sampson will go a long way in you know determining their fate for the rest of the season. So with that, it's a wrap, ladies and gentlemen, on this episode number 31, where we previewed the five teams from the north and the east zone of the country. And we will soon follow it up with the remaining five teams, the three western teams, um, you know, uh, sorry, the two western teams coming in from Mumbai and the new team from Gujarat, and then three southern teams of Bangalore, Chennai, and Hyderabad. And then it'll be all good to look forward to the IPL uh, season. And just before that, we'll also do another episode uh, where we will do a review of the international cricket that is going on, a quick review of the India Sri Lanka series that recently ended, and once the third test match of the Australia Pakistan series is over, we will do a bit of a discussion on that as well, and also on the Bangladesh South Africa series and the England West Indies series. So we'll do a separate episode for the international cricket as well before the next 2 months are going to be totally taken over by the Indian Premier League. So that's it from us today. Thank you very much, Ravi, for your time and providing your vital inputs on these five teams. And hopefully, once we are done with the second episode on the other side of teams, we can have a go at who our four playoff teams are going to be and put our neck on the chopping block and call these four teams out. Uh, Not be surprised if one of the common themes in there is in the color of orange, just smoking on the side over there.
Hopefully.
uh,
Yeah.
yeah. So thank you very much, and we hope you listen in to our podcast and give your views as well, and look forward to the next episode soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Pawan. And of course, yeah, looking forward. Thanks, everyone. Bye bye.